Because a few months ago I was invited to have a conversation about what project audience could be as they were still developing the concept and how they were going to build the first iteration. What would the pilot be? And in that original conversation, we were really identifying what were the different sources of data in LA County around events, what currently existed and what did we not currently track. And through the Arts Commission, we fund the program that I oversee is the Organizational Grant Program, which is a grant program for nonprofit organizations. That means that I know what's happening in about 350 nonprofit arts organizations who aren't also listed on Experience LA. Because Experience LA does exist in terms of a calendaring site of events, but represented on there aren't usually those really culturally specific neighborhood events that you might find or happen upon if you're part of some sort of subgroup or culture that isn't being tracked by some larger organization. So I feel like this is a great opportunity for the first time to really see in a really huge way, the big macro way of the region, what's happening in many different neighborhoods all at once at one point in time. And what it shows us is not only where there are pockets of activity that we might not know about, but it will also really distinctly show us where there's no activity and where resources might be more necessary to reach constituents who also want cultural experiences but might not have access to them right now. There's a lot of potential to how does that fit over existing maps of things you're already looking at? How does that, if you're looking for real estate, right? Maybe this would be the kind of thing that you would be able to see where are neighborhoods where there's real hot pockets of activity. Or if you're out to dinner and you want to do an around me kind of search to really find, is there a theater production that has tickets that are currently on sale? That could be a really good use of this too for nonprofits or other organizations who are presenting. If we're collecting the events data based on all these external sources of where it's already published, what else are we missing? And so if you're trying to find that really underground thing, where does that get published? So I feel like that's the next real big question is, where else do you find information after you've found it in all these first tier places, right? LA Weekly, Experience LA, the websites themselves, neighborhood papers. So once you've exhausted that, where else do we start to look? How else are things publicized so that you'd be able to find that really great experience that you were looking for in a neighborhood that you want to explore? But I think social media has a lot to play with that too. And that's where the connections really start to become very interesting to me, that if you have an electronic database, you can start to connect it to other electronic sources. And can you automatically feed events live into this? The overlay of transportation on top of this would be fascinating. Like, where do buses and trains intersect so that you can access them? How do we find the other expressions that are happening really organically and have those represented so you get a full patchwork of what's happening in LA County? Because we have a rich area. I mean, it's an extraordinary area region that we live in with so many different people and so many different cultural experiences happening all the time. We should be able to talk more fully about that, and I think that this will let us do that. I think that we were struggling earlier with, at what point does the data tool, how does that reflect into policy? Because I know how it works in advocacy to work towards the policymaker, but I'm not sure at what point it is the policy itself. And I think we're getting more clarity on that, but the conversation right now is, this is good information to have to different ends. For me, one of the ways that I'm going to be looking at this is we're proposing to the Board of Supervisors a new grant program at the Arts Commission called project-based grants, and that those would be grants that right now our program is the Organizational Grant Program for nonprofits. This would be for anyone who's not eligible right now, basically. So that would be nonprofits whose mission does not include arts but is doing arts programming. It would include social service organizations, hospitals, libraries, that kind of a thing. And why I bring this up is that having a map of where events are taking place, cultural events are taking place, which can show me, if I can do a filter of which are the nonprofits and then remove that, I can see everyone else who's doing this great work and get a sense of who is not being served right now by the Arts Commission that is serving those constituents of that area, but that we're not providing resources to. Sorry about the mic. And so that gets very exciting as a guideline implication and as a grant making implication, that I can look at this data and really see who could I be funding to help with that constituent building for the Board of Supervisors. That's a great application.